Julia Rivera adjusted her glasses firmly on her face as she skillfully maneuvered the tray of canapés she was presenting to the guests. On weekends, she took on the role of a waitress to enhance her earnings as an art teacher at a public school in Miami. The additional funds assisted in covering the payments for the modest apartment she cohabited with her friend Elena, as well as the costs for supplies she purchased for her students when the school fell short. "Apologies," she murmured as she collided with a man dressed in an immaculate suit. He hardly glanced her way before resuming his discussion. This evening held a unique quality. She was not engaged in any work. She stood by her childhood friend Monica's side as a bridesmaid on her special day. An extravagant event held at one of Miami's premier hotels. Julia stood awkwardly among the dazzling guests in her bright yellow dress, the sole piece she could afford that met the formal requirements of the event. Across the expanse of the ballroom, Ethan Blake glanced at his watch for the third time in a mere 10 minutes. He thrived in the world of corporate takeovers and million-dollar deals, not in these social gatherings brimming with small talk and insincere smiles. He took a slow sip of his whiskey, standing solitary by the bar, his gaze fixed on his younger brother Ryan as he twirled with his new bride on the dance floor. Ryan had suggested earlier that he could at least feign enjoyment. "It's my wedding day, for heaven's sake." In his role as the head of Blake Enterprises, Ethan found himself with scant opportunity for personal relationships. The penthouse with its breathtaking view of Biscayne Bay was striking yet devoid of warmth. His schedule brimmed with appointments, devoid of moments to cherish. At 35, he possessed all the luxuries wealth could afford, yet lacked the true treasures of life. "Ethan, there you are," his mother said, guiding a woman in a vibrant yellow dress toward him. "Monica's friend is in search of a dance partner, and you've been frozen in place like a statue all evening." Before he could voice any objections, Ethan was nearly propelled onto the dance floor alongside the bridesmaid, whose discomfort mirrored his own. "I'm Julia," she said, adjusting her glasses. The metallic brackets of her braces glimmered under the light as she offered an uneasy smile. Ethan responded tersely, his hand settling on her waist as the music began to slow. He observed right away that she stood apart from the other women at the wedding. Without a designer dress, flawless makeup, or carefully crafted charm, she refrained from asking him about his company or making remarks about his family's affluence. "You don't want to dance with me?" Julia remarked, her tone steady after a brief pause of quiet swaying. Ethan arched an eyebrow. "Beg your pardon? Everything is all right. Your mother made you come, and you'd prefer to be anywhere but here, I understand," she said with a shrug. "To be honest, I would prefer to be evaluating my students' artwork at this moment." Her straightforward honesty took him by surprise. As an educator in the arts within a public school setting, it may not be the most glamorous role, yet my passion for it remains strong. As they glided across the floor, Ethan discovered himself genuinely engaged in her conversation about her students, her enthusiasm shining through as her eyes sparkled behind those large glasses. "How about you?" she inquired. "Allow me to make a prediction. Something that demands a constant serious demeanor and generates substantial income." Ethan nearly cracked a smile. "Nearly. Perhaps something along those lines." "It must be tiring," she remarked, her tone gentle. For the first time that evening, Ethan sensed a recognition of his presence. Not as a figure of authority, not as a title holder, just as an individual. It was disconcerting yet strangely invigorating. As the final notes faded away, Julia retreated swiftly. "Thank you for the delightful dance. You can return to your whiskey while I focus on not stumbling in these heels." Ethan observed her retreat, fading into the throng of attendees. She didn't make an effort to prolong their conversation, didn't offer him her number, didn't request a business card. As he made his way back to his place by the bar, he found his thoughts lingering on her sincere eyes and that vibrant yellow dress, which somehow felt more genuine than all the high-end gowns surrounding them. Throughout the evening, his eyes wandered, searching for her amidst the crowd. He observed her laughter with friends, her assistance to Monica with the dress, and her spirited dancing alongside the other bridesmaids. Julia Rivera inhabited a realm distinct from his, characterized by financial limitations and the realities of public education. Yet there was an essence about her that rendered his existence of corporate gatherings and negotiations unexpectedly empty. As the wedding drew to a close and the guests started to depart, Ethan searched for her one final time, yet she had vanished. He reassured himself that this was the preferable path. Their paths had crossed for a single dance, and that was all it was meant to be. As the driver navigated the streets towards his vacant penthouse, Ethan felt an undeniable change within himself, stirred by a dance that had defied expectations. 3 days post-wedding, Ethan found himself in his corner office with a view of the Miami skyline, struggling to concentrate on the acquisition reports laid out before him. His thoughts wandered repeatedly to the lady in the yellow dress. He had spent the previous night searching for Julia Rivera, an art teacher in Miami, and after some exploration, he discovered her professional Instagram account brimming with images of student creations and classroom initiatives. "Mr. Blake, your appointment at 2 o'clock has arrived," his assistant conveyed via the intercom. Ethan nodded, shutting the browser tab that displayed Julia's beaming smile from a school fundraiser photo. This was utterly absurd. He was behaving like a lovesick youth. The meeting lingered, with executives delving into discussions about profit margins and market expansion. Ethan participated when needed, yet a portion of his mind lingered in another place. Once the last person had departed, he grabbed his phone and revisited Instagram. Before he could rationalize his way out of it, he shot her a direct message. "The dance we shared at the wedding was truly delightful. How about grabbing a coffee together sometime?" He placed the phone on the table, a wave of regret washing over him for the hasty decision. It's likely that someone like Julia already had a boyfriend. His phone vibrated. Ethan Blake? The man who appeared as if he would prefer a root canal over sharing a dance with me. How unexpected. A smile crept across his face at her reply. "I am worthy of that. Indeed, that is who I am." 3 dots emerged, vanished, and then re-emerged once more. "What is the reason?" Ethan hesitated. "Why, of course." He crafted the truth with his words. "Our conversation keeps replaying in my mind. That was the sole genuine experience I encountered throughout the night." This time, her reply arrived swiftly. "A quaint little coffee shop named Cafecito can be found on 7th Street. Saturday, 10 in the morning. I need to grade some papers, so I won't be able to stay for long." Julia arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early, her fingers fidgeting with her glasses, as she scanned the room with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. What had compelled her to say yes to this? After much contemplation, she finally chose to don a pair of jeans paired with a straightforward blouse. Nothing extravagant. She refused to put on a facade for Ethan Blake. She noticed him right away as he entered, hard to miss in his impeccably fitted casual attire that likely exceeded her monthly rent. He bore no trace of corporate arrogance, however. He appeared to be teetering on the edge of doubt. "You came," she said as he approached her table. "Did you really believe I wouldn't?" He took a seat opposite her. "Individuals in your position often experience last-minute cancellations from their assistants. Are there individuals who appreciate me?" Ethan arched an eyebrow. Affluent individuals who shoot off spontaneous messages only to recall they have more important matters to attend to. He appeared truly astonished. "Is that really how you perceive me?" The server approached and they placed their order. A straightforward black coffee for him, a chai latte for her. "I'm not sure how to feel about you," Julia confessed. "That's the reason for my presence." As their drinks were served, a surprising dialogue started to emerge. They shared stories of their upbringing, his sheltered youth burdened by familial pressures, and her Puerto Rican parents who juggled several jobs to provide her with chances they never experienced. "Is that the reason you share your knowledge?" he inquired. "Is it due to your parents?" Julia gave a slight nod. "My father often remarked that knowledge is the one possession that remains yours forever." Her expression shifted into a shadowy hue. Even as others attempted to seize control, just as Ethan was about to inquire further, Julia deftly shifted the conversation. "How about you? Have you always aspired to take the reins of the family enterprise?" He stated that he had never contemplated any alternative. It was anticipated, And if it weren't, what actions would you take? The inquiry took him by surprise. He had never been posed that question before. I'm not sure, he confessed. Perhaps a focus on architecture. As a child, I found myself immersed in the world of architectural design. Julia beamed. It seems there's an imaginative soul concealed beneath that stern facade. From that point on, the dialogue unfolded effortlessly. What began as 1 hour stretched into 2. Julia's papers stayed unassessed. Are you interested in visiting my teaching space? She inquired abruptly. The school is open today for a weekend art program. Ethan paused for a moment, then gave a slight nod. I would appreciate that. The public school structure was a far cry from the private institutions Ethan had experienced. Worn paint and aging facilities, yet adorned with lively student creations that revitalized the environment. Julia guided him to her classroom, where several students were engaged in their weekend projects. Upon her entrance alongside Ethan, their gazes lifted with intrigue. Allow me to introduce Mr. Blake to you all. Today he will be visiting our classroom. A young girl with braids came forward, beaming as she showcased her painting. Miss Rivera, I have completed the sunset. Julia crouched to meet the girl's gaze, studying the artwork with sincere curiosity. Maria, the hues you've combined here are stunning. Observe the way the orange seamlessly shifts into purple. Ethan observed Julia as she gracefully navigated the room, offering each student her undivided attention. It was clear that the children held her in high regard. In this modest classroom, she radiated confidence and vitality, unlike anyone he had encountered in boardrooms or galas. As they departed an hour later, an unspoken change lingered in the air between them. I appreciate you sharing your world with me, Ethan remarked as they strolled toward the parking lot. Julia regarded him with a contemplative gaze. Perhaps you could share yours with me next time. Ethan nodded, understanding that all he truly desired was the hope of a future encounter. What began as mere curiosity had blossomed into a deep admiration. Yet as he observed her wave goodbye, a persistent thought lingered in his mind. The mention of Rivera stirred a faint recollection in his mind, linked to his father's past business ventures, a connection he hesitated to delve into. In the weeks that followed, Ethan and Julia's connection deepened, evolving from casual coffee shop encounters into an unforeseen bond. As they wandered through Miami, Julia unveiled quaint art galleries that had remained under his radar, while Ethan guided her to secret restaurants that only the in-the-know could find. This weekend, Ethan mentioned in their Friday phone call that there's an art retreat in the Keys featuring local artists who will be conducting workshops and exhibitions. I thought this might pique your interest. Julia found herself in a moment of indecision as the weekend approached. Ethan, I'm uncertain. He quickly clarified that they would be in separate rooms. The resort features a charming bungalow arrangement. I figured you might find the workshops enjoyable. Following a moment of contemplation, Julia consented. I would appreciate that. The weekend surpassed all their expectations. Julia flourished in the imaginative atmosphere, engaging in every workshop offered. Ethan found a newfound pleasure in sketching, a pastime he had set aside since his younger days. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they strolled along the beach, shoes in hand, embracing the tranquil beauty of Saturday evening. Julia noted a change in you, a sense of ease that wasn't there before. I feel changed, Ethan confessed. Outside of the organization, the duties. Stepping aside from his identity as a Blake, he nodded. At times, the name seems to weigh heavier than it should, overshadowing any sense of honor it might carry. Julia came to a halt. May I pose a question to you? What makes me the one? There are countless possibilities for companionship. Figures, influencers, individuals from your realm. Ethan pivoted to meet her gaze, the sand subtly shifting underfoot. Because you are genuine. Your interest in my finances or my family name is non-existent. You point out my arrogance when it surfaces. Your influence enhances my growth. He extended his hand gently, allowing her the opportunity to retreat. As she remained silent, he gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Their initial kiss was soft, hesitant, and flawless. The remainder of the weekend unfolded in a haze of togetherness. They exchanged tales, aspirations, and a growing allure. By Sunday afternoon, as they got ready to head back to Miami, Julia found herself succumbing to her feelings for him, despite all her doubts. Just 2 days after coming back, Julia found herself at a school fundraiser, mingling with parents, when she caught wind of a conversation that sent chills down her spine. "That's Arthur Blake's son?" one parent murmured to another, gesturing toward Ethan, who had caught Julia off guard by showing up, the one who now leads Blake Enterprises. Blake, the other parent, appeared taken aback. "Isn't that the organization that devastated numerous enterprises in the Rivera neighborhood?" "Indeed, my husband found himself out of work amidst that entire situation. An unfortunate turn of events in the realm of property acquisition." Julia stood still. Rivera area, the area where she resides. Her loved ones. Memories surged forth. Her father returned home a decade ago, disheartened, revealing that he had lost his job following the acquisition of his company by Blake Enterprises. The ensuing financial collapse when they were unable to secure new employment. Her mother's illness remained untreated due to their inability to afford health insurance. Julia had to forego the scholarship as she needed to work full-time to support her family. Arthur Blake, the father of Ethan. She navigated the throng with a mechanical precision. Visions of her father's disgrace intertwined with the family's hardships, clashing against the sweet memories she'd created with Ethan just days prior. Upon reaching him, her expression likely revealed her true feelings. "Is that you, Julia? What seems to be the issue?" Ethan extended his hand towards hers. She withdrew. "Blake Enterprises. The business owned by your father." His expression shifted, realization beginning to take hold. "Is that you, Julia? Have you heard?" Her voice quivered. "Are you aware of your family's actions regarding the Rivera neighborhood?" "For my father?" Ethan's face went pale. "Manuel Rivera is your father." "Was," Julia corrected, tears welling up. "He passed away 3 years ago, following the devastation caused by your father's company to all he had built." "Julia, were you aware? When you searched for me, discovered my identity, was this merely a form of entertainment for you?" "No." Ethan's voice escalated, capturing the attention of nearby parents. He swiftly brought it down. "I only came to understand it after our meeting had taken place." The name rang a bell, yet it didn't click until... "How long will this last?" Julia insisted. "He confessed last week. I discovered some papers in my father's old files." The treachery pierced her heart more profoundly than she ever thought possible. "Just a week to go before our adventure begins. You were aware, yet you chose not to share that with me. I was contemplating the best way to convey this to you. To elaborate, could you clarify what you mean? In what ways did your family amass their wealth at the expense of others? How you managed to hide this from me while..." She was unable to complete her thoughts, tears streaming down her face. Ethan maintained that it wasn't the case. "Those decisions were made by my father prior to my joining the company. I was unaware of the specifics until..." "Hold on," Julia raised her hand. "Please cease. Your trust was placed in me. I allowed myself..." She gently shook her head. "I must take my leave. Julia, if you would be so kind." Yet she was already moving on, navigating through bewildered parents and educators. The agony was all-consuming. Not merely the reopened wound of her family's anguish, but the new laceration of Ethan's betrayal. In the parking lot, she arrived at her car just as Ethan came up behind her. "Julia, allow me to clarify. There's a deeper narrative at play than... Everything has been made clear." She climbed into her car, furiously wiping away her tears. "You embody the essence of Blake. I am a Rivera. There's a purpose behind the separation of those names." As she drove away, leaving Ethan standing alone in the parking lot, Julia sensed a fracture deep within her. For a fleeting instant, she had convinced herself that the divide between their worlds was insignificant. The past had now emerged, revealing the extent of her mistakes. For the very first time, Ethan Blake found himself unable to concentrate on his tasks. He remained in his office, fixated on the same spreadsheet for hours, his mind consumed by the image of Julia's tear-streaked face. 3 days had slipped by since she had turned her back. 3 days have passed with no response to calls or texts. "Excuse me, Mr. Blake?" The assistant tapped softly on the door. "The board awaits your presence." Ethan nodded, adjusting his tie with a practiced precision. In the meeting room, his father's former colleagues deliberated over quarterly projections, while Ethan's thoughts drifted to the Rivera file he had unearthed, the acquisition that had closed down several small businesses in a largely Hispanic neighborhood a decade earlier. "Ethan, what do you think about the proposal?" The inquiry jolted him back to the here and now. "I require additional time to examine," he stated, rising suddenly. "We shall gather again next week." Disregarding their astonished looks, he exited the building and drove aimlessly, with no particular destination in sight. In an unexpected twist, he found himself in Julia's neighborhood, far removed from the comforts of his downtown penthouse. The streets were adorned with quaint establishments, a charming bakery, a diligent repair shop, and a vibrant mural celebrating the rich Puerto Rican heritage of the area. This was what his father had almost obliterated, what his family name had tarnished. Driven by a sudden urge, he pulled over and stepped into a quaint cafe. A gentle smile spread across the face of the elderly woman behind the counter. "How may I assist you today, sir?" Ethan spoke up quickly. "I'm searching for Manuel Rivera's family." Before he had a chance to think it over, Julia, his daughter, imparts knowledge at the local school. The woman's smile disappeared. "Manuel, may he find eternal peace. A decent fellow." She regarded Ethan with a newfound wariness. "What brings you to the Riveras? Could I please have a moment to speak with Julia's mother? It holds significant value." There was something in his expression that seemed to sway her decision. She inscribed an address on a napkin. "Carmen resides there now, in a smaller space since Manuel's passing. But I must caution you that this family has endured more than enough." Carmen Rivera stood at a modest height, her eyes mirroring Julia's expressive gaze, yet imbued with the weight of years filled with wisdom and sorrow. She observed Ethan with a wary eye from her front porch. "Blake," she uttered, the name sharp and biting as it rolled off her tongue. "The instant I laid eyes on you, I recognized you. You resemble your father. Mrs. Rivera, what brings you here? Hasn't your family taken enough?" Ethan gulped nervously. "I have no intention of taking anything. I have come to express my regrets." Carmen's demeanor remained unchanged, yet she moved aside, granting him entry into the humble living room. Images of Manuel and a younger Julia adorned the walls, capturing a joyful family before life took a different turn. Carmen motioned toward a well-loved sofa, inviting her to take a seat. "Express your thoughts clearly." Ethan stood still. "What my father did to your husband and to this community was unjust. I have dedicated several days to reviewing the acquisition files. The strategies employed were merciless." Carmen echoed the word with a cold intensity. "Ruthless. Is that what you refer to when a man dedicates 30 years to a company, only to be discarded without adequate compensation? What happens when families lose their homes? What happens when a community is fragmented?" Every word struck with the force of a blow. "No, I refer to it as it truly was harsh and unfair. What makes your opinion so important to me? You embody the essence of a Blake." Ethan spoke softly. "I'm not seeking forgiveness. I understand that I may not have earned it. I find myself here because your daughter recognized something in me that she deemed valuable, and I failed to be truthful with her." Carmen's gaze sharpened. "Julia, what is her connection to this? We had been spending time together until she found out my true identity." Carmen's expression shifted as realization washed over her. The enigmatic figure who has been bringing joy to her days over the past few weeks. It was clear that trouble would come dressed to impress. "At first, I had no idea who she was," Ethan explained. "Upon recognizing the connection, I ought to have informed her right away. I take full responsibility for that." Carmen observed him intently for an extended period. "My husband passed away convinced that your father had wronged him, depriving him of the compensation he deserved, and that the system was stacked against individuals like us." Ethan conceded that he was indeed correct. The acquisition was designed to reduce employee payouts. It was permissible yet profoundly immoral. He delved into his pocket and extracted an envelope. This may not rectify the past, but it is what Manuel was rightfully owed, along with interest. I did the calculations on my own. Carmen chose not to accept the envelope. Your money is not what we seek. It doesn't belong to me. It's what your spouse earned. Ethan set it down on the coffee table. Regardless of your acceptance, it was important for you to understand the truth. Just as he was about to walk away, Carmen called out once more. My Julia has consistently shown an abundance of forgiveness, always eager to find the good in others. Her voice took on a gentler tone. That trait clearly comes from her father. Ethan hesitated at the threshold. She is worthy of so much more than what my family offered, superior to my previous efforts. Indeed, Carmen concurred. She certainly does. In a corner of the city, Julia found herself on the floor of her apartment, encircled by the student artwork awaiting her evaluation. Instead, her mind continually returned to Ethan. The pain remained fresh, yet inquiries intertwined with her fury. Her phone vibrated, signaling a message from her mother. Today, the Blake boy paid me a visit. We need to have a conversation. Julia felt her heart pounding in her chest. Ethan visited her mother. What could he have possibly uttered? A new message came in from Elena, her roommate. You must check out something at school. The creative space. At this moment, perplexed, Julia made her way to the school. As she navigated the stillness of the building after hours, she approached her classroom with a sense of purpose. As she swung the door open, a gasp escaped her lips. The art room was a canvas of transformation. Fresh easels have taken the place of the damaged ones. The walls were adorned with shelves brimming with premium supplies. A cutting-edge projector was suspended elegantly from the ceiling. A simple note rested on her desk. Without any obligations. The donation is anonymous. The tools your students receive should reflect the unwavering commitment of their teacher. Julia settled into her chair, a tumult of feelings battling inside her. The act wasn't intended as a means to purchase absolution. She had a deep understanding of Ethan. This was his attempt to make things right, creating something significant while remaining in the background. As tears filled her eyes, Julia understood that her heart was caught in a struggle between the anguish of her past and the hope of a future she had caught a glimpse of during those fleeting weeks with Ethan. She was uncertain about which would prevail. For a fortnight, Julia steered clear of any thoughts of Ethan. She immersed herself in teaching, utilizing the new supplies without recognizing their source. Her students were ecstatic about the revamped classroom, crafting art with a fervor that typically would have brought her immense happiness. Miss Rivera, is everything all right with you? One afternoon, Maria inquired, observing Julia lost in thought as she gazed out the window. Absolutely, darling. I'm contemplating our upcoming endeavor. Yet she was not. Her mind wandered to Ethan, reflecting on the message her mother had sent following his visit. He never sought your forgiveness, Julia. He arrived to embrace accountability. Your father would assert that it holds significance. Julia had grown up with the conviction that second chances and redemption were possible. Her father, in spite of all that transpired, remained unyieldingly kind. Clinging to anger, he would often remark, is akin to consuming poison while hoping the other individual suffers. Following her classes, Julia made her way to the community center, dedicating her time to teach art to the seniors there. Upon entering, she was taken aback to see Mrs. Hernandez, the director, radiating with joy. Julia, have you come across the delightful news? We secured funding for the whole year. Every one of our programs ensures safety. That's incredible, Julia beamed. Which corporation ultimately gave the green light to our grant? Mrs. Hernandez gave a slight shake of her head. Not a business entity. A benefactor whose identity remains undisclosed. They simply requested that the funds be allocated straight to programming, rather than to administration. Julia felt a sudden flutter in her chest. Unknown? Absolutely. Isn't it just delightful? Individuals continue to perform acts of kindness without seeking recognition. As the night unfolded, Julia found herself immersed in a tapestry of familiar tales. The local clinic has acquired new equipment. The after-school program has acquired a transportation van. Out of the blue, the neighborhood beautification project received funding. Everything is anonymous. Everything has happened within the past fortnight. As Julia made her way home, she took a slight detour to visit her mother's house. Carmen sat on the porch, poised and expectant, as though she had been anticipating her daughter's arrival. "It's him, right?" Julia inquired directly. "Every one of these contributions." Carmen gave a slight nod. "He has been quite occupied. What is it that he desires?" I inquired about the same matter when he reached out to confirm that I would receive the pension funds. Julia's eyes widened in astonishment. "Did he reach out to you?" I needed to ensure that I hadn't discarded his envelope. Carmen's lips quivered slightly. "I nearly did. What was his statement? What motivates him to pursue all of this?" Carmen gestured for someone to join her, tapping the space next to her invitingly. As Julia settled into her seat, she gently grasped her daughter's hand. "He mentioned that he was brought up to resolve issues with finances, as it was simpler than addressing them with honesty and effort. He is exploring an alternative approach." Julia averted her gaze, a tempest of conflicting emotions swirling within her. "I'm feeling lost, Mama. Whenever I begin to let my guard down, I recall the actions of his family towards ours." Carmen stated with conviction, "Your father lost his job due to Arthur Blake, not because of his son. However, Ethan has become a member of that company now. He reaps the rewards of his father's actions. Indeed, he is now leveraging those advantages to seek reconciliation." Carmen grasped Julia's hand tightly. "I'm simply sharing my thoughts, Haja. The choice of whether there's something valuable to preserve rests solely with you." Ethan sat in his office, meticulously examining community investment proposals, when his assistant broke the silence with an interruption. "Mr. Blake, a Julia Rivera has arrived to meet with you." His head jerked upward. "Have her come in." Julia stood in the doorway, an unexpected presence amidst the corporate opulence. Yet she held her ground with confidence. "Thank you for accommodating me on such short notice," she expressed with a sense of formality. Ethan rose to his feet. "There's no need for an appointment, Julia." A tense stillness lingered in the air between them. "You've had quite a lot on your plate," she finally remarked. "The community hub, the healthcare facility, the educational materials. That was the bare minimum I could offer." "The minimum?" Julia arched an eyebrow. "It has to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars." Ethan gave a slight shake of his head. "Giving money comes naturally to me. Way too simple. It doesn't remedy the past. So what's the reason behind it? These organizations truly merit our backing." He paused, knowing that community deserves to flourish. "And since I couldn't conceive of any alternative to reveal the person I aspire to become." Julia observed him intently, truly seeing him for the first time since that evening at the school. He appeared transformed. The assured CEO succeeded by an individual who embodies vulnerability and humanity. "My mother mentioned that you took it upon yourself to calculate my father's pension," and Ethan nodded in response. "I dedicated 3 days to meticulously reviewing each record. He deserved far more than what the company compensated him. Why didn't you mention the connection when you first became aware of it?" He confessed his fear. "Fearful of being without you. Fearful of becoming merely another figure in your perception." He swept his fingers through his hair. "I regret my actions. They were thoughtless." Julia approached the window, gazing down at the bustling city beneath her. "For an extended period, I felt a deep sense of anger. What occurred with my father? Dear members of our community, discovering that you were connected to that family has stirred up old wounds I believed were long since mended." She turned to face him, a look of understanding in her eyes. "However, my father also instilled in me the belief that individuals should not be evaluated based on their names or origins, but rather by their deeds." She inhaled deeply. "You've been making an effort to act with integrity, fully aware that our paths may never cross again. I wouldn't hold it against you if you chose not to." Julia moved in closer. "I continue to feel pain. I'm still navigating the implications of all this. However, I believe it's time for us to engage in a genuine conversation, to share openly without any more hidden truths between us. A glimmer of hope shone in Ethan's eyes. I would appreciate that. I'm not committing to anything, Julia warned. No matter how hard I tried to erase you from my mind, you lingered on. Surely that carries significance. In that moment, within the confines of his office, two individuals from contrasting backgrounds, bound by a history of heartache, yet hinting at a potential future together, Julia arrived at her decision. Not to overlook or completely absolve, but to embark on the path of comprehension. To discover whether what they had initiated could endure the reality of their true selves. How about grabbing a coffee together? Ethan inquired softly. Begin anew? Julia gave a slight nod. Not beginning anew. Pressing on, but with sincerity this time. The reconciliation was far from a fairy tale. It was an improvement. It was genuine. The waning afternoon light poured through the windows of Ethan's penthouse as he walked back and forth. A bundle of nerves. Following 3 months of mending their bond through coffee dates, candid discussions, and gradual progress, Julia finally consented to visit his home for the very first time. He devoted countless hours to transforming the space into something more inviting. The stark, cold modern art pieces his decorator had championed were now a thing of the past, giving way to inviting hues and a touch of greenery. Yet, the expansive windows revealing Miami's skyline did little to conceal the stark divide in wealth between them. The chime of the doorbell echoed through the quiet space. As he opened it, Julia was there, holding a small canvas delicately in her hands. I brought something, she said, stepping inside and absorbing the surroundings with wide eyes. Isn't it overwhelming? Ethan gestured, a hint of self-consciousness in his movements. Julia dismissed the thought with a shake of her head. Simply, quintessentially you. Systematic. Immaculate. She presented him with the canvas. Perhaps this could be of assistance. The artwork depicted the shoreline where their lips had first met, with vivid hues encapsulating the sunset they had shared. Julia, this is truly exquisite. I believed your walls might benefit from something that carries a narrative within it. He set it down with great care on the mantel. It's absolutely flawless. They stepped onto the balcony, glasses of wine in hand, as the city lights started to twinkle beneath them, the dusk gently enveloping the scene. I never thought I would find myself in this place, Julia confessed. Here alongside you. I never thought anyone could perceive me as you do, Ethan responded. More than just a title, it's about the wealth. Julia pivoted to meet his gaze. I have a question for you. There's a question that's been weighing on my mind. Everything. What comes next for us? She made a sweeping motion between them. We've been working on restoring our connection, rediscovering each other, yet we still come from different realms, Ethan. I continue to be an educator burdened by student loans. You still operate a business that could purchase my whole school. Ethan placed his glass on the table. I've been pondering that as well, concerning the significance it holds for us. He inhaled deeply. Before I crossed paths with you, Julia, I found myself in solitude, amidst a crowd yet utterly isolated. I possessed it all yet felt utterly empty. What comes next? At this moment, clarity has emerged. The things my father could never grasp. He grasped her hands gently in his. I prefer you to carve out your own space. I have no desire to alter you or the course of your life. I simply desire to be involved, in whatever form that may take. It won't be a walk in the park, Julia cautioned. Conversations will unfold. The members of your board, my esteemed colleagues, allow them to speak. I am not my father, Julia. There's no requirement for you to change who you are to conform to any preconceived notion of what a partner should embody. What is the situation with the company? What actions did it take? I'm making a change, Ethan declared with conviction. Not solely for your benefit, but because it is the right thing to do. A community restoration fund has been created for neighborhoods affected by previous business practices. She felt the warmth of his grip as he shared his vision of a restructured leadership that embraced a wider array of perspectives. Though the past remains unchangeable, The future is mine to mold. Julia examined his expression. Have you truly been engaged in all of that? Indeed, it's not about seeking acknowledgement, nor is it about obtaining your pardon. Yet, encountering you opened my eyes to perspectives I had previously overlooked. The sincerity in his voice touched her profoundly. For months, she had been shielding her heart, hesitant to embrace trust once more. Yet, as she stood beside him, witnessing the transformation he was undergoing, the remnants of her defiance started to fade away. She confessed her fear, not only of the pain that might come again but also of the possibility of losing her identity in your realm, of transforming into a person my father wouldn't recognize. I would never want that, Ethan said in a gentle tone. Your resilience, your values, they are the reason I fell in love with you. The words lingered in the space that separated them. He hadn't intended to voice it, yet once it was out, he found it impossible to retract, and he didn't wish to. Julia's eyes grew large with surprise. Ethan, there's no need for words. I understand it's... She halted him with a kiss, gentle and confident. As she withdrew, her eyes sparkled with deep feeling. I love you as well, she murmured softly. In spite of it all, and because of it all, my affection for who you are and what we share remains unwavering. Ethan drew her near, his heart swelling with a fullness he had never imagined before. They lingered on the balcony, the sprawling city unfolding beneath them. Two realms converged into a singular destiny. He vowed there would be no more secrets. Let there be no more unspoken thoughts between us. Julia leaned into him, her head resting softly against his chest. Only the truth, no matter how intricate it may become. In that instant, their diverse origins, their troubled past, the challenges that lay before them. Nothing held greater significance than the truth they had finally voiced. Half a year later, Julia faced her class, leading her students in a project centered on personal identity. The art room flourished with the supplies that had emerged on that crucial day, yet her students had ceased to inquire about the enigmatic benefactor. Miss Rivera, will your boyfriend be joining us today? Maria inquired, paintbrush poised in her grasp. Julia beamed. Mr. Blake has a meeting scheduled, yet he will be present for the exhibition next week. Ethan had established himself as a familiar presence at the school, initially sitting quietly in the corner, observing, and then slowly beginning to assist students with their projects. The children were captivated by him, particularly when he recounted tales of his childhood experiences in designing buildings. After class, Julia glanced at her phone and discovered a message from Ethan. The meeting concluded ahead of schedule. Is dinner at your mum's still happening? She replied with a message. Indeed, she is creating pastels. Please ensure you arrive on time. Their lives intertwined in ways they had never envisioned. Julia stayed committed to her teaching, turning down Ethan's early proposals to assist with her student loans or rent. She was adamant about doing things her own way, and he honored her autonomy. In the meantime, Ethan had revitalized Blake Enterprises from the inside out. The organization has now invested in educational initiatives across Miami, emphasized ethical business practices, and created a foundation to assist communities that were adversely affected by corporate development. Not everything was flawless. Awkward moments lingered at business functions as whispers circulated about Blake's schoolteacher girlfriend. At times, Julia found herself feeling like an outsider in the opulent realm that Ethan inhabited. Yet, they faced these challenges side by side, evolving and gaining wisdom with every hurdle. That evening, Julia arrived at her mother's house to discover Ethan already present, sleeves rolled up, assisting Carmen in the kitchen. No, you need to fold it like this, Carmen explained, showing how to wrap the pastels in banana leaves. Watch out, Mama, Julia playfully remarked, placing her bag on the ground. There's a possibility he could bring you on board to instruct his executive chefs. Ethan replied with a smile. Your mother could teach his chefs a thing or two. Carmen gave him a playful swat with a dish towel. Fewer words, more action. Julia was still in awe as she observed them together. Her mother, who had previously uttered the name Blake with disdain, had slowly come to appreciate Ethan for who he truly was. A A pivotal moment arrived when Ethan created a scholarship in honor of Manuel Rivera, aimed at supporting local students who aspire to enter skilled trades. "It's not about seeking your approval," he said to Carmen, "but rather because your husband valued the honor that comes with diligent effort. That should be etched in memory." As they gathered around the dinner table, Carmen regaled them with tales from Puerto Rico, imparting Spanish phrases to Ethan that caused Julia to blush and brought laughter from her mother. The fusion of their realities had transformed into their everyday existence. Ethan immersed himself in her culture and community, while Julia maneuvered through the unfamiliar terrain of the corporate world. "Tomorrow, I have a meeting with the school board." Julia brought it up while they were clearing the table, discussing the possibility of expanding the arts program across the district. "That's absolutely delightful," Ethan remarked. "Your proposal was outstanding. Did you assist her with it?" Carmen inquired of him. Ethan gave a slight shake of his head. "She refused to allow me. It was stated that it should originate from an educator, rather than a corporate figure." Julia beamed. "I allowed him to review it for errors. Once you completed everything," he remarked with a sense of pride. As they strolled toward Ethan's car, he gently grasped her hand. "I have something to reveal to you, a project I have been diligently crafting." "Yet another unexpected twist?" Julia arched an eyebrow. "I have strong feelings about those. This one stands apart. I would appreciate your thoughts on this matter." They made their way to a neighborhood close to the school, the very area that had felt the impact of Blake Enterprises years prior. Ethan pulled up to a deserted lot, its wild weeds sprawling unchecked. "What is this all about?" Julia inquired as they stepped out. Ethan presented her with a folder. Within were designs for a community arts center. "This land has remained untouched since my father's company acquired it," he explained. "I aim to contribute to the community, but with intention." Julia perused the plans, discovering areas designated for classes, exhibitions, performances. Everything she had envisioned offering to her students and their families. "Ethan, this is..." She gazed up at him, feelings rising. "This is truly remarkable." "It's merely an idea," he remarked. "I would like your assistance in crafting it, ensuring it aligns with the community's needs rather than my own perceptions of what they require." Julia shifted her gaze from the plans to the vacant lot, envisioning not the present reality, but the possibilities that lay ahead, just as she had come to do with Ethan himself. "Our realms need not remain apart," he murmured gently. "They have the potential to transform into something entirely different as a unit." As she stood in the dimming glow, Julia understood that this was precisely what they had been crafting from the very beginning. Not his existence or her existence, but a collective journey ahead that respected both their truths. 1 year later, the Rivera Community Arts Center rose from the ashes of an empty lot and shattered dreams. The contemporary structure, adorned with vibrant murals, emerged as a defining feature of the neighborhood, serving as a hub where local creatives collaborated with guest experts, where youngsters unearthed hidden talents, and where the whole community expressed its identity. This evening held a unique significance. The inaugural major exhibition at the center, named Invisible Transformations, showcased creations from Julia's students delving into the theme of personal change. The gallery buzzed with the energy of proud parents, community members, and a handful of corporate sponsors, all coming together in a space that United Realms once deemed incompatible. Julia navigated the bustling crowd in a modest blue dress, pausing to offer her congratulations to each young artist, her expression radiant with pride. She glanced at her watch with a hint of anxiety. Ethan had sent a message saying he was delayed returning from a business trip, but assured that he would arrive before the exhibition ended. Miss Rivera, Maria, now in middle school, waved with enthusiasm. "There has been interest in purchasing my painting." "That's wonderful," Julia exclaimed, marveling at the girl's remarkable growth in talent. "Keep in mind, the price is yours to determine. Your creations hold significance." As she moved through the gallery, Julia halted before a wall honoring her father's memory. Images capturing Manuel Rivera in his workshop, guiding his daughter in the art of painting, and standing proudly before their first home, illustrating a journey of a life richly experienced despite its hurdles. Next to the photographs was a plaque dedicated to Manuel Rivera, who imparted the lesson that genuine richness comes from crafting beauty with whatever resources life offers. The words were Ethan's idea, a recognition that certain lessons elude the confines of boardrooms and business schools. Julia sensed someone behind her and turned, anticipating the familiar figure of another parent or teacher. Instead, Ethan remained in place, a bit tousled from his hurried arrival, his gaze not on the exhibition, but solely on her. "You did it," she whispered gently. "This is something I can't pass up." He beamed, surveying the bustling gallery. "This is truly remarkable, Julia. All of this was accomplished by you." Indeed, she made the correction. "This space thrives due to your unwavering faith in its potential." Ethan shook his head in refusal. "It exists because you revealed to me what truly holds significance." Throughout the last year, their bond had grown stronger through a common goal. Ethan had transformed his professional landscape to prioritize what truly mattered to him, entrusting more tasks at Blake Enterprises while concentrating on community investment initiatives. Julia had broadened her teaching horizons, creating initiatives that extended into Miami's underprivileged communities. Though they continued to lead distinct lives, Julia in her cozy apartment close to the school and Ethan in his sleek penthouse downtown, the lines separating their worlds had softened, forging a connection that was more profound and unexpected than either had ever envisioned. Ethan said, "I have something for you," as he reached into his jacket pocket. "Ethan, there was no need for you to bring anything." A small wooden sculpture emerged from his hands, depicting a dancer adorned with oversized glasses and braces, frozen in a lively twirl while wearing a vibrant yellow dress. "A student of yours created this," he elaborated. "Last week, during my visit to your class, she handed it to me. She mentioned that it brought to mind a tale I once shared about our encounter." Julia grasped the sculpture, her fingers gliding over the intricate details with care. "The dance we shared at the wedding." "The unexpected dance," Ethan remarked with a grin. They stood side by side, enveloped by the creativity of young minds they had both influenced, within a space that embodied all they had achieved together. "I still don't enjoy parties that much," Julia said, gazing up at him. "But I'd dance with you again." Ethan's demeanor softened as he looked at the woman who had transformed his world, the mentor who had imparted his most profound understanding. "I would wait an eternity for that dance," he responded. He drew her near, oblivious to the eyes around them. In that instant, there existed neither a prosperous entrepreneur nor an educator, no Blake nor Rivera, just two individuals who had discovered something genuine in a realm frequently characterized by superficiality. In the midst of the gallery, Julia's students erupted in laughter and pointed as they watched their teacher dance with abandon. Parents exchanged knowing smiles. The past, laden with its anguish and separations, remained present, yet it no longer dictated the course of their future. As they moved in harmony amidst the art that honored change, Julia leaned her head against Ethan's chest, sensing the steady beat of his heart. They didn't require elaborate proclamations or theatrical actions to navigate their path ahead. A sanctuary was forged, allowing both to embrace their true selves, a serene haven of acceptance that, akin to genuine artistry, blossomed from the exquisite clash of diverse realms. Have you become enchanted by Julia and Ethan's journey? From that surprising dance to their stunning evolution? Their narrative illustrates how individuals from contrasting backgrounds can create something significant together, even in the face of a troubled history. We invite you to share your reflections on their relationship and what resonated with you the most about their journey in the comments below. If you found joy in the dance that shouldn't have happened, we invite you to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more touching tales that delve into love, forgiveness, and personal growth. We're eager to know which country are you tuning in from today. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Are there any other love stories that bridge social divides that you would like us to explore next?